What's up, everybody? It's the Inhuman one here, and today I'm going to introduce you to a knight without a name. A knight that loyally served her king despite his questionable methods of containing an epidemic and numerous shortcomings. That's right, in this video, we'll discuss the tutorial knight from Dead Cells so that we may finally uncover who she may have been and what her purpose in the overall narrative may be. The aptly named tutorial knight is the first NPC the Beheaded encounters immediately following the animation of the headless corpse in the introductory sequence. Upon further inspection, the initial awkward dialogue is actually quite telling. Based on several statements the tutorial knight made, she seemed to have knowledge of who the Beheaded truly was and may have been tracking some of his previous progress on the island. She even went so far as to state that the Beheaded can no longer die, and questioned how it must be strange to be back from the dead. Eventually, she revealed that the Beheaded was not the first to find himself in this situation, which heavily implied that she possessed knowledge of the abominable experiments the alchemist had performed to reanimate the dead. These earlier versions of the homunculus prototype served as a blueprint for the perfect and indestructible form the Beheaded would eventually become. Additionally, aside from the Timekeeper and the alchemist, the tutorial knight is one of the select few individuals who is consciously aware of the ever-changing nature of the island and its almost lifelike ability to constantly restructure itself. During the third encounter with the tutorial knight, her comment about working with the collector to light up all the flasks seems a bit sarcastic, almost as if she understands the futility of it all. But how could she know all this, and why does she seem to be so invested? Unfortunately, many of the secrets she possessed died along with her, as she was killed by a lethal wound inflicted by a broadsword. But even in death, we can learn much about an individual. In fact, there are several key details that the Beheaded can discover upon entering High Peak Castle. First and foremost, there are a number of portraits of the tutorial knight hanging from the castle walls. This would support the possibility that she was part of the royal guard and likely held a high station in the king's court. Additionally, this explains how the tutorial knight would have access to information that only the most privileged would possess, such as the alchemist's experiments and the temporal distortion of the island. Upon further inspection, the Beheaded can locate a bedchamber that belonged to the tutorial knight and served as her private place to comment on the new chef's cooking, and more interestingly, to fawn over her king. That's right. Careful observation of the king's portrait in this chamber reveals a cute little heart etched into the corner of the painting. It would seem the king had a secret admirer. There are a number of the exact same portraits that can be found outside of her chamber that have no such heart. It's entirely possible that the tutorial knight grew fond of her king during her service to him, and upon his transformation into the Beheaded, she sought him out to watch over him from afar and provide ambiguous hints that would attempt to provide some insight on his current predicament. It's not a stretch to believe that she would know exactly where the pipes to the water fountain led to. Unfortunately, however, it would seem that the tutorial knight too was being observed, but for an entirely different purpose, as her body would eventually be found impaled by a massive broadsword. But who would want her to be killed? Perhaps someone who wanted to prevent the Beheaded from discovering his true identity. What we do know for certain is that there is only one type of enemy that wields a broadsword, and that enemy can only be found in High Peak Castle. That's right, the Guardian Knight also wields a broadsword to great effect, and is the most likely suspect for the tutorial knight's assassination. The only question that remains is, who gave the order? Well, that's for you to decide in the comments below. And until next time, it's the Inhuman One signing out.